Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Ramblings of a 42-Year-Old Man. Chris Smith here. And on today's episode, I am going to talk about a trio of books that I read last week, listened to on audiobook actually, all from the same author. And I'll talk into kind of how I got that started and what kind of got me going to where I wanted to read these three books all by the same author, and a little bit about them and about the books, and that'll be my ramblings for today. So the author in question that I started reading last week is Christina Henry. And I'll tell you real quick how I got started in this. I was looking at a Twitter posting of just, there was a hashtag horror books that was trending a couple days ago. A couple weeks ago, actually. And I was looking, and I was kind of, a lot of authors are up there promoting their stuff, which is great. And then you would have some like, hey, these are all the horror books that I've read the last couple months. And I saw a picture that somebody put of the horror books that they had read. And I kind of looked through, and I have a library card, and I do the Libby app for the audiobooks at my library. And so what I just kind of did is I looked at the books, I looked up in Libby, and I tried to see which ones my library had audiobook versions of. And Christina Henry's book, Near the Bone, was one of the books in the picture. And I found it on Libby. So I popped it up, I added it to my queue, and a couple days later, one day at work, I went ahead and popped it on and listened to it. And it caught my attention quite a bit. Near the Bone, just quick synopsis for it. A woman is trapped on the mountain. She's attempting to survive some sort of monster that is on the mountain with her. And there's more than one type of monster up there. So that's just the quick plot summary. But what ends up happening is Maddie is the name of the woman who's on the mountain. She lives up there in seclusion. It's really just her and her older husband, William. They live up on this mountain in seclusion, just the two of them. William can go into town sometimes to get supplies and stuff, but Maddie's never really allowed to. And I'll just put right here, real quick trigger warning out there. There is domestic violence in this book. So if that is a trigger, then definitely I would understand not wanting to read this. I would say there's nothing insanely graphic about it, but the situations are there, and they are talked about, and there's hitting that you do read about, and then the backstory that goes into that relationship is very disgusting and gross, but it doesn't go into really specific details about it. But I would just say that if things like domestic violence, child endangerment, even things like that are a triggering thing, this would not necessarily be the book for you. But it does handle it fairly well. Like I said, it doesn't go into gory details. I've read plenty of things that go into way too much details in some of these things. This was just very much this has happened, or this is happening. Let's continue with the story. So they find that there is a creature somewhere in the woods surrounding their cabin that they live in that is killing the animals. And so, the rest of the book is pretty much Maddie kind of figuring out what's going on with this creature that's killing animals, all while trying to kind of survive the monster that she lives with as well. So where it says that there's more than one kind of monster, the worst kind of monster in this book is not the creature. I would say that. The worst kind of monster in this book is another character in the book. So again, warning for domestic violence. It goes into some interesting places, I would say, and you'll see as I'm going through kind of the other books that I read from Christina Henry, this happens a lot. The creature itself is not the focus of the book. Even finding out what the creature is, she really never gets into that too much. Really is a character piece about this woman and what she's having to deal with on this mountain, and the creature is almost kind of a backdrop to it. So again, that's Near the Bone. That is the first book that I read. I picked it up because I saw a picture of it on Twitter. I'm like, hey, let me see if my library has this. I read the synopsis and I thought it sounded interesting, so I read it. Really liked it. I thought it was well written. I've read plenty of things that go into really graphic details on things that I don't want to read about. I like how those things happened, but let's move forward with the story and let's talk more about this character, what they're doing now and stuff like that. So I thought it was really well done and made me interested in checking out what else I could find from Christina Henry. And I did find in my on my Libby app in my library that there were a couple other audiobooks as well that I could listen to. So I went ahead and pulled up the couple that I could see, and just a little background now on Christina Henry that I found. So she started with kind of a 7-book dark fantasy series called the Black Wing series. You look at the covers and it seems very possibly tween romance. I'm not sure if they're young adult novels. I haven't read any of those yet, but it's definitely kind of gives that that kind of not Twilight so much, but all those kind of Twilight ripoffs that kind of came up around the same time. Cassandra Clare, those kind of covers is what this kind of looked like to me. But she had those series, but then where it gets interesting is after she's done with that 7-book series, she starts writing like standalone novels, and her first one is called Alice, and it is kind of a riff on Alice in Wonderland. She's got a couple books in that series. So she got Alice, the Red Queen, and then she's got like a novella or short story series that's in a book called The Looking Glass. I haven't gotten to read those yet, but I'll be interested in checking those out. She follows up the Alice books with a book called The Lost Boy. That is pretty much a prequel to Peter Pan, kind of a darker version of Peter Pan, who has kind of the Captain Hook origin story. Then you also got a book called The Mermaid. It involves P.T. Barnum and his sideshow and a mermaid that he finds. Again, haven't read that one yet. Very interested to see that one. That one is in my library. I'll probably be doing a read of that one pretty soon. And then it's followed by The Girl in Red. The Girl in Red is one that I was able to find, and I did read through, and I'll get into that one just a little bit. That one is followed by The Ghost Tree, another standalone, and then you've got Near the Bone, which I just read, and then right after Near the Bone came out a book called Horseman, which I also was able to read that one, and I'll get into that in just a minute too. Christina Henry does have a new book coming out this year. I believe it's in November, called Good Girls Don't Die. I was able to, I was able to find her Facebook page, and she actually communicates pretty well and regularly on that. And she mentioned that her new book is coming out in November. So now I'll start digging into the other 2 books of hers that I was able to listen to. So after listening to Near the Bone and really enjoying that one, I looked up what else I could find, and the other ones I was able to find pretty quickly that I didn't have to place any holds on, I was able to just check out and start listening to, were Horseman and The Girl in Red. I read Horseman first, and Horseman is a kind of quasi-sequel to The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. The main character of that book is a descendant of characters from that story, mainly Katrina and Brom, the boyfriend of her character in the original Sleepy Hollow story. And so what ends up happening, they live in Sleepy Hollow. It's still a very small kind of village. It's not too far removed from the village that it was in The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. And eventually, in the woods, they come across a headless body. And then the story goes from there. Some interesting places. Definitely some little more supernatural there in this case. And this one does go a little more into the kind of creature, supernatural presence, whatever it is that's kind of kicking things off, a little more than it did with Near the Bone. Where Near the Bone was definitely more of a character study. This, while still a pretty good character study, went into a little more of the reasoning and the things that are happening on the supernatural side of things. So that one was very interesting. I had a good time with that one. And I was also able to find after that The Girl in Red. And The Girl in Red is a post-apocalyptic take on Little Red Riding Hood. So there's a virus in the world. You kind of have your standard post-apocalyptic story where people are all pretty much just out for themselves and everybody's kind of monstrous, and focuses on this woman who's just trying to go find her grandmother. Her family is all kind of apart from her now, except she's hopeful that she can go and find her grandmother. So there's your Little Red Riding Hood. She actually, her name is Red. She wears red all the time, and she's on the way to go find her grandmother in this world full of wolves, pretty much. But you find out through the story that she's not as defenseless as she may seem. And so the story really revolves around her. Again, similar to Near the Bone, the kind of crazy factor of the book, this post-apocalyptic, the virus and stuff, is really backdrop setting for just following this character and really being with her, hearing her story. There's a lot of flashbacks to how things were before the virus, how things were when the virus first started, and then where she's at now. The origin of this virus is really crazy, but again, it's very quick as at the tail end, and they really don't dig into it much. So I don't know if there's going to be future sequels to this story or not, but it definitely left you with like, whoa, you could make a whole other story just based around that twist. But this book specifically was focused on the character of Red and her story. And so I listened to all 3 of those books last week. Enjoyed each of them. I'd say Near the Bone was probably my favorite of the 3 still, and it really did get me interested to read and hear more about her stuff. Horseman was great, and The Girl in Red was good as well, so I enjoyed all 3. Again, this is Christina Henry. I'd be interested to see read some of these other books. She's up to the book that's coming out this year would be her 17th novel. So again, she's got a 7-book series that's kind of all together. Then she's got the Alice books that has a couple books and a short story collection. And then the rest of them are kind of one-off tales. A lot of them kind of having to do with some sort of rift on a previous kind of literature, whether it be Peter Pan, Wonderland, P.T. Barnum is a character in one of them. So very interesting reads, a lot of fun. And I found her writing to be good. The narrators that they do, since I am doing audiobooks, do a really good job with the narration. And so just really good reads all around. So that's my ramblings for today. Again, Christina Henry is the author. Near the Bone, Horseman, and The Girl in Red were the 3 books I have read by her, and there's another 14 of them out there that I can try to catch up on. So thank you for listening to me today, and have a great day.